Welcome to the Degenerate Nation podcast. I am here with Charles Hades. That was so feeble. Did you let that out your ass chamber? That was terrible. That could have been overshadowed by the most faintest of queefs. That was not your best effort. You'll do better at the close of show. This is me with no effort. I don't put any effort into this program when I'm on it.
Nope.
I'm trying to sink your ratings. Huge ratings, huge. We know someone that has not so huge ratings right now, though. Who's that? Who that?
That'd be your number 45th president.
Number 45 in our hearts.
1, 2, 3, sigh.
Yeah, he's number 45th president. And he's not doing a good job of raking in the voters, guaranteed voters for next time. Where's his poll numbers at right now?
You know, I don't know exactly, but I know he's just down in the polls.
Yeah, it's like 14 points, right?
It's pretty bad when Fox News won't even recognize how down in the polls he is.
Oh, well, they gotta juice it up, man. They gotta hide the fact that he's doing horrible so people buy more
They take it out on the protesters
garbage.
when all the looting and all that stuff has pretty much been done with and over with for quite some time.
Yeah, because they ran out of steam. Why they only loot for 3 days or whatever, 4 days? Then they were 2 weeks pass or whatever, 2-3 weeks pass, and then they're like, let's take down the statues, and they're taking statues down. But what are they doing that's and canceling old TV episodes? And getting people fired from their regular jobs or their Hollywood jobs or whatever for not being woke, or just for being prejudiced in some points, or just having some moments in their lives where they decided to make a comment on a forum, and you're done when you do that. Keep it to yourself, racist, or not even racist people. Some people are just backwards thinking, and they fucking lose their jobs because they put it on Twitter. I ain't put that shit on no Twitter. Fuck that. I don't have those views. Maybe that's why I don't put it on Twitter. If I had those views, maybe I'd be a fucking idiot that gets canceled too.
You know what? I want to see, I really want to see, and this is probably going to be controversial of me to say, I really want to see those corner reports on I don't think it's just a coincidence that more than 5 black men were hanging in Southern California by trees.
All right. There was how many people were?
5.
I know that there was one that the guy, his brother passed too, shot by a deputy or something. But that the initial brother was ruled as suicide, right?
Yeah, and they were questioning the validity of that.
Jeez. How do you determine that?
Well, all these places have been hotbeds for white power movements as well. Yes.
Were they all in California or no?
So all in Southern California, in around 50 miles of each other. It's just what's the likelihood that people wind up hanging themselves within 50 miles of each other when we have a Black Lives movement going on in this country?
It was a tipping point. George Floyd and to a lesser extent the man in Atlanta was a tipping point event. I mean, this has been stirring, and that all it took was another group of string of these murders, really, killings to just make things explode. And I mean, I'm obviously for protesters and protesting. One's right and ability to protest anything, and I respect that. This time around, this movement caught some fire, like to the point where people are almost like feeling like not afraid to not support it, but just thinking like they're looked upon poorly if they're not supporting it. And that's how you know that you, to an extent, you've been effective, because you've resonated with people's minds, right? But
Sure.
The next step is getting actual change made. And not like the change that we were talking about a couple minutes ago, like
Right.
Golden Girls episode from fucking 1987 being like pulled because they had mud masks on. It wasn't even blackface. Or like surprisingly, like those shows on the NBC network that's supposed to be woke or whatever, but in like the early 2010s had like was it 30 Rock had blackface four times, and The Office had a blackface episode, and it's like, really? I'm shocked that these liberal entertainers are coming up with blackface episodes. Like, I'm shocked.
Well, if there was going back a few decades, Carol O'Connor and Norman Lear really clashed on All in the Family, because Carol O'Connor is very liberal, and
Yeah.
the show was pretty much, Archie Bunker was basically Norman Lear's dad.
Really? Okay. I don't know Norman Lear, but
in a nutshell, to use the famous Hamlet quote, in a nutshell, it was pretty much that character was his father. It was based off his father. So, but Carol O'Connor and him clashed many times over, what was going to be permissible for him to do on the show and not, and within that character, basically, how far was Archie going to take it? In other words.
Norman was like, well, I'm the boss.
Pretty much.
And like, we'll kill your character off if you fucking don't do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, there's one way or another to convey those type of, that show wouldn't get much traction these days.
No, it wouldn't be able to do it. I think it sucks that you can't do a program that's clearly like pointing out these issues from different perspectives, and you, like a conservative person learning to side with the brother or the son-in-law, and a liberal person willing to accept some of what Archie's, where he's coming from, without actually understanding it, without really accepting it, I should say, or without endorsing it. And you just don't, if that's not on the air, if you don't get to see examples of people clashing and stuff like that, but still like somewhat loving each other or getting along on some level, like, how do you do it in your own life when you encounter something like that? You don't. You flip out on Facebook, and it's an embarrassment. People embarrass themselves.
Right. It's this once PC culture really kicked in, and became more acceptable, i.e., basically, it's middle-class white women coming up with acceptable language.
Yeah. Yes.
And making things sanitary to the point where, you can't have civil discourse.
No, they're douching discourse.
You can't have civil discourse without, like, jokes. I mean, the last bastion is for, comedians to make fun, and we're talking about, a lot of the Me Too movement has gotten a backlash.
Yeah.
in places too where it's just like, oh well, they're just hiring it to hire it, and it's just like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't want to sit there and be some kind of apologist for, the likes of Harvey Weinstein or anything like that.
No.
But that kind of, his behavior been notorious for years.
Right, and like people covered up for him, and then some of the guys that worked with him and knew about these things to an extent come out of the woodwork. It's like, where were you before when he wasn't helping your career? Right? It's like, don't come out at all. You're a hypocrite. It's one thing to, I understand like protecting yourself first, or like caring about your own career before you care about someone else's feelings. Because honestly, that's human nature to an extent, But to come out later and being like, yeah, he's bad, I'm wrong, to like, you could have known about this and done something and saved these other people. But instead you wanted to make sure your movie got a wider release, your next movie. So fuck you.
Well, it's when somebody like that became that powerful and had a corner on the market in Hollywood as far as gainfully employing people, and their name was at the top of every single frickin' project.
Yeah.
It became one of those things where, like, you hear these rumors, you hear these stories, there's stories, blah 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 blah.
Yeah. He was so powerful that Shakespeare in Love won Best Picture. Like, are you fucking serious? I never watched that, but I forget which movie it won over. It was 99, right? Or 98?
I think 98. Yeah.
98, yeah. I don't remember which one it won over. Was it Saving Private Ryan or something? Maybe.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it's like, regardless, it was one of those anomalies of the Best Picture races where it's like, clearly it was all Harvey that got that going, and it wasn't the actual quality of the film compared to some of these other films.
Well, the actors turned directors will win before actual directors. There were so many years that they bypassed Scorsese because he wasn't your typical Hollywood guy. He was making all his films in
New York,
in every place but Hollywood.
Yeah, and that used to be a problem for them, right? Now they actually they're letting agents vote. Like, for the races. I wonder who they're gonna vote for. I mean, their votes would cancel each other out, right? They're just gonna vote for their clients. So it's crazy.
It's pretty screwy.
Yeah, but like, I mean, it really, those awards, we can be like, oh, that doesn't mean anything anyways. Like, we're not in that industry. Like it does mean something. It does get you more jobs. It does get you more money. So it shouldn't be like so corruptly subjective, right? I mean, you could look at a few movies and like objectively pick out which one is more technically sound or has the better script, or like, like the nuts and bolts. But like, oh, the music, oh, that's subjective. Like the performances, that's subjective. And like, obviously it's not an exact science, so it leaves so much room for like fucking around with like bribing people and all sorts of shit.
Well, not to mention it's just like, I've sat there and watched, like, take a movie like Man on Fire.
Yeah, Denzel Washington, right?
Yeah, Denzel Washington.
Revenge flick.
Here's his character. Here's his character who's really going through some stuff because, well, he was a mercenary, and him and his character, he keeps on going back to his boss, who's played by what's his face, Mr. Gangster himself.
Mr. Gangster himself, Michael Madsen. That's my dude.
No.
That's my dude.
Is it?
Yeah, I spoke to him on the phone a couple of times back in like 2007 about a project I was doing. We were looking for actors, but I was like, yeah, I was truthful. I was like, we were trying to locate financing, but I just want to let you know that we were really like hoping that you might be able a part of it once we were able to do that. He's like, you know what? He's like, if you get the funding, I'll do it. Like almost sight unseen without the script. I just gave him a little short background. I was just like, it's like, oh wow, thanks, man. You know, he was fucking cool as shit, and his voice, yeah, his voice is exactly like that when he's like, it sounded like he's been eating rocks all day. He was so awesome, and he'd be like, he's like, oh Andy, hold on, I'll have to call you back. He's like, my kid's beating the shit out of me, and he hung up, and I was like, that was awesome. I was like, what a great story that. So I just like hope someday I can repay that like kindness that he showed, like for like a first timer being willing to just even talk about a project without something solid right in his face, you know?
Yeah.
He was cool as fuck.
Well, that's cool.
What about Man on Fire?
I was sitting there reading Entertainment Weekly, and this know-it-all, you know, oh, it's trendy to hate everything reviewer gave it like a D, and I'm like, were we even watching the same film?
Was it Owen Gleiberman or whatever his name is? Something like that?
It was like Lisa Swarberman or... Yes,
Lisa Wait, so she said it sucked, and you're like, this is great.
She gave it a D, and I thought it was a good film.
Like a B plus, right? Like an A minus, B plus. Like pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, and she gave it like a D, and I'm like, oh, it's just another. I was just like, whoa. Here's this character is really going through some stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he's thinking about ending his own life.
And it's Denzel Washington playing it, you know? So it was good enough to attract Denzel Washington. He don't do shit just for the money.
No.
He doesn't have to. He's one of the best out there.
Right. And he's a fantastic ad-libber.
Oh, yeah? Is he really, like, intelligent? And he's apparently a nice guy. He stopped to, like, take care of, a street person, like, was it a few weeks back or a month back or something? Like, while this stuff was going on, you know, he was kind of worried about his safety, and so he just, like, pulls over and, like, helps the guy.
Right.
It's like, who the fuck does that? Like, everyone kind of maybe thinks about it, but if you're in your car and you're like, hey, I'm Denzel Washington, they're not gonna fuck with me if I help this person, and like, I'm not gonna get a ticket for my car or whatever. So he did it, and he took time out of his day to do a kindness because he's seeing what's going on in the world, and it's like, these things really aren't okay. I don't want some incident to happen to this guy because he's maybe might have schizophrenia or just could be drunk, and you know, we get all sorts of ways when we're drunk, like a little bit belligerent sometimes, especially if you had a history with police. Like, I mean, I've never feared for my life with police. I've had like a somewhat neutral attitude about police because I've met a lot or encountered them, like say hello to a bunch of them, and they seem pretty solid, but I mean, that's just my experience. Other people's experience has been like less than positive and stuff, and so I'm always trying to like see the bigger picture with police. You know, there's so many of them. Everyone's different.
Right.
What can we do to? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, you know, that's another conversation for another episode. But
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, taking time out of your day to help somebody else, like when you don't know what the parameters are, you don't know what the person's going through or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you might, you know, there's that old Jean-Paul Sartre saying, hell is other people, you know, you don't know what kind of hell you're going to get subjected to.
Was that a No Exit? He wrote that, right?
Yes, he wrote
Yeah,
No X.
yeah. I vaguely remember it from high school, but it was one of those works that I was like, thank God we got something cool, because I was like, this and The Stranger. I liked all the existential type of works that we had, because it was just really, it clashed with like high school life, where you're supposed to care about this minute bullshit, and you're here. This person's like, it's all meaningless. Like we're all in a waiting room for hell. But yeah, helping out a stranger like that, great. I've done something not as like I don't think as impressive as that, but I helped out someone that he was like in the drive-through line for McDonald's, just like with a cup. I think he had a cup and a sign. I was just like, he looked at me, or I looked at him, and then he looked at me. I rolled my windows on. You want like some food or something? I was like, I don't got any fucking like change or whatever, but like you want like I was gonna eat anyways. You want some food? He's like, okay. So I sat and had McDonald's with him, and he's like, turns out he had some of the same issues, And I'm thinking like, what separates us? Okay, we probably have different ambitions. Like we probably had different ambitions and stuff. Like he's probably not exactly on the same track as me as far as like, oh, I'm trying to create these things, or I want to, and I'm not quite there to the point where I'm like being productive. But like comes from a different probably background as far as like what he wanted to do when he was little and like when he was growing up. And at some level, like I kept going and he split. Or like, and when I split too, like I had this support network that I had always kind of leaned on, and maybe he didn't have that. Or he did, and he just like went away from it. And that's okay, and like, or he just had certain things more severe than me, and like so. Either way, I was thinking about that when we talked. We both shared of having some manic depressive issues, and I was like, hey, I respect, man. Like we have some similarities, and like I'm glad I got to meet you. You're pretty cool, And he goes on his way, and hopefully you could get sorted out eventually, and if not, I hope there's more people that are willing to like take time out of their day because they understand.
Well, I mean the fear issue of getting involved with another person, especially a stranger with their problems and or whatnot, is one of those. Someone else will do it, or come up with an excuse in your head like why I can't, sit there and do it. I remember some people are stubborn about accepting any help, even if, and
men usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pride thing, but it's just like you're already here, like you're already looking for this, so why don't you? It's like there's still people that have their own boundaries and stuff, and sometimes like people that want to help like overstep their boundaries, which is a very complicated thing because it's not like the sign that someone's holding isn't like, I have the following issues, and please don't offer to do this. But what I would like is this. That's too big of a sign. It's like I have like schizoaffective and I drink to cope. Don't give me loose change, that's insulting, or like, but give me this, or like give me like $5 bills and I can go get a sandwich and a pack of cigarettes if I get X amount of dollars, and I just come back and do that the next day, and like this is my life, this is what I do, like help me this way. And we don't have signs big enough for that. Imagine if you saw that, you'd probably want to help, right? If it was like so specific to what you needed that day.
Well, it would almost that there, unfortunately, it would be funny if somebody just had a sign that said need money for new Sharpie.
Yeah. It was like, sit on my face. Just need human contact. Thank you. Just want to feel like a person. Sit on my face, please. Like, I mean, people have these problems. You get your Karen types out there that have these squabbles and shit, and you're like, you know what? This person has the same deep core problems that you do, where they just want someone to sit on their face, but they don't get to ask for that or complain about the person that they are getting that from not doing it right. Like, they're trying to survive. Like, they need a new Sharpie so they can write more on their sign that says what they want, so they can help. Like, yeah, I got a drinking problem, and yeah, I'm gonna buy a pint with this. But if you give me more, yeah, I'm gonna eat too, and that's gonna help me because eventually I'll kick this other thing if I'll just be a sandwich person, and I'll eventually get healthier. And it's just so frustrating to see people on the street in America when we have there's so much wealth in the country. And it's just, I'm not one of those, like, we have to redistribute wealth to people, but, like, what are all these taxes for, honestly, if we're not helping? If there's people that aren't being talked to, let alone treated, it's one thing if they're resisting treatment, but how many of those people out there are actually actively resisting somebody helping to treat them that aren't, like, quote-unquote too far gone or whatever, you know?
Well, I mean, I lived in Berkeley, so there was a whole system set up for where you couldn't go hungry in Berkeley.
That's awesome.
You really couldn't. You may have gotten tired of going to the same place and get basically the same
slop
food.
Or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, but like that's a thing that makes you think like, yeah, I don't want this, and then you're like, well, maybe I could get something else. And then you're like, what do I need to do to get that something else? You know? But the fact that they're getting a basic meal that they can complain about, that should be an American right, I think. I don't know if that's too extreme, but it's humane. It's like, especially like kids. Kids should never fucking go hungry. Ever.
Yeah.
Like, it should never happen. There's so many resources.
But the scammers and the cheaters and all the other negative things that we hear all the time, that's what makes people resistant of helping or anything like that. It's like,
and their own hang-ups. Maybe they might be worried about being attacked or
just a scammer. Right, exactly.
No,
and it's like,
there's really good people that are legitimately on the streets and not just like their job is to panhandle, because those people, like, ugh, the people that like have a home and they're like married and they go out and earn their money standing around with a cup, and they got to that street first because they have a car that they can park somewhere, and like that's stealing. That is stealing, I think.
Even if you're, well, what the hell, even if you're in on your car, you still have, like, something over somebody else.
Oh, your thing's breaking up. I'm talking to a robot right now. Keep talking until it fixes.
Robot, Dave Chappelle show, robot, do the robot.
There you go. What were you saying?
I said even if you living out of your car, that you still have, you still have to sit there and, depending on where the parking situation is and stuff like that, you still have to play this game where,
yeah,
you have to worry about tickets, you have to worry about, your car getting towed.
I did the semi-white collar version of doing that, just like living by the sword and not making much money. And it's like, I mean, at least if you're out from the cages, you're doing it. You're really in the game. You still have the same fucking problems, like oh, you're worrying about parking tickets and stuff like that, and citations for being in the wrong place or this and that. But like, you're still like you're free from that doing the spreadsheet life. You know what I mean? But it's not any better to obviously to be have to doing the scraping and scrapping on the street and stuff. Like some of these people going back to the current turmoil, like some of the people that are like you're giving a counterfeit money, or you're selling loose cigarettes, or any of these things that like are outside, that are technically misdemeanors that people are for some reason dying for. And it's like we wouldn't even be having these discussions about police brutality or race or anything like that if there were more jobs available to people in the places that they're from. Like George Floyd had to go to, he went to Minneapolis he was looking for work. Like he's from like Houston area, I think. And maybe, I don't know his full story, but I understand that maybe there were some problems getting work there, and it's like, it's just so tragic that someone that would have to pass.
Here's the irony: the cop that killed them, they used to work together at the same club.
That's crazy.
And they had clashes. Apparently that cop was a thug inside the club too, with the patrons.
That's so fucked up. I just don't know why people can accept an oath to protect and then do obviously the complete opposite of destroying, and not even by accident, like where you shoot the wrong person or he thought they had a gun or something like that. I'm talking about like you're just wrestling in the ground and like choking them, like for what? What is the point of any of this? Like, and I know that there's definitely some police biases. It's got to be trained into them, unless it's like everyone that becomes a cop, not everyone obviously, but a lot of people that become cops have this internal bias against certain types of what people look like, and that person looks like a thug, or that one's fine, and like this looks like a rich kid, just let him go or whatever. And like, why? They have the money to pay this shit. Fucking put them in jail and like get some more money for the state, motherfucker, or the city. But instead, it's like you're literally like strangling someone that is not like would struggle to pay the citation. So you're gonna get more interest on the fucking. I mean, even on an economic level, like you'd let him go. He's gonna have to pay the thing like over time, and like, why?
All that was over was a phony $20 bill.
Did I tell you last year I think I talked about this on the show before, but like I had $100 bill and a $200 bills that were fake, that were given to me when I sold a basketball ticket to a scalper because I had an extra ticket. No one wanted to go to the fucking Elite Eight against Zion Williamson. Jeez, I need some new friends, obviously. But yeah, I had to sell it to a guy for some money, and it was fake money. And I go to the bank. I had no idea. He gave me a 20 and 200s. I should have known from that weird for $220. That's a weird denomination, right?
Right.
Payout. But it was fucking totally fake. And then I was like, oh, really? Well, what do I do? Not like, stay here, we're calling the cops, or whatever, and like detaining me. It was like, well, we obviously have to shred this, and we have to make a note of it. I was like, okay. I was like, it wasn't my fault. They're like, we know. I'm like, how do you possibly know that? I could have been fucking lying, and I'm like, I just got caught. All shucks, pulling the all shucks routine. Like, look at my wholesome ass. Nothing happened to me. Nothing happened to me.
Right.
And mine was 100% not my fault, or that at least I 100% didn't know it was fake. But even if this dude was passing $20 for cigarettes, I feel so bad that someone fucking called the cops, like felt compelled to call. Like I feel bad for that guy in a way, because he's got to live with like, if I didn't call about this and I just let the guy go, or like asked to take the 20, like he would still be alive. But that shouldn't be on someone's conscience, because it shouldn't have come down to like anything bad happening to the guy. He should have been able to just be on his way, and I don't know. It sucks. I'm kind of rambling there. But it just bothers me, the circumstances. None of those things should happen. Not a single one.
the priority and the the policing method, obviously, the cameras didn't tell the whole story.
Yeah.
And nowhere in the video do you see Mr. Floyd resisting.
Nope. So it's like, why use any tactic at all besides talking to him and give him a ticket? If anything, it's like he's fucking...
Well, I mean, it's a felony, and officers are promoted by number of arrests they make, especially felonies.
Well, he lost an arrest because the guy died. I mean, it's like it's flushed for no reason, It's like, and all these other lives that have been taken since then, like because of the protests and in some cases riots, and the backlash and the other people that were killed along the way. I don't know if it's usurped the Rodney King riots, but in destruction or anything, probably not. But I don't know. It's so fucked up. Like, it shouldn't come down to like similar events that happened like in 2015 and a little after that too, 2014 to like this should have happened then. It shouldn't be 6 years later, and we're still dealing with the same situations over and over and over again. And they're moving the football a little further down towards the goalposts for like justice or equality or whatever, and it's nowhere near the 50-yard line at all. It still does. It doesn't feel that way to me because we're getting these like little cancellations of 4 episodes of fucking 30 Rock. Like any of these people who were watching that show. I know Tracy Morgan was in it, but he's not really like a big figure amongst the social justice movement types,
Right.
And it's like I mean, if all this stuff is going to get disrupted, I want there to be more that takes place besides canceling like reality stars because they tweeted something offensive 10 years ago, or like canceling episodes of like fucking 30 Rock in The Office. I want something real to happen. Like, start making this turn this into an economic issue too. Like, start going after companies. Like, really, really take this movement and grow it in other directions. Because if you want to make a difference, you have to go after the money, and you'll find out it's tough when you go after the money. But you have to go after the money, or else it's all like for naught eventually, because it gets other things are going to pop up.
Well, this is taking to the streets is the only way the disenfranchised their voices ever get heard.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the they don't have the money to afford to
yeah,
legally wrongful death suits or whatnot.
Yeah.
Because
they'll get legal funds from people donating, but I don't know. It's like, what did you think of? Did you think that the bail funds were like the best use of people's resources that we're trying to help a little, or is part of the process being like, all right, who's really with me? Who's willing to go to jail and have to stay the night, like to for the cause? Like, who's like really with this motherfucking shit? Like, and that money could have been spent elsewhere, like in it for the long haul, because people have a limited amount of attention and resources. Right now, the attention's on it because, what happened, all these things that have happened has been tragic and really confounding to a person trying to figure out what, a young person especially, like, figuring out what life is supposed to be like, and they're confronted with this when they're in college or high school or like shortly after. But I've like, once the pandemic finally goes or starts to fade away, and it looks like it's going to be more months, how is this not going to take a back seat to life returning? How can they make it a prominent issue like constantly?
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. The number one, there's always going to be something else that's going to distract the public's attention.
Football. Like other shit, like having to go back to work and the economy, and I mean they got a few months. Like what can be done in a few months? I mean something, because and then I think that Trump's gonna win again. It doesn't look like it right now, but I think that it's just like he's got that 38, 35, whatever percent it's down to. But he's got them, and they're not going anywhere. Those people are staying. And people will go into that ballot box or into the voting booth, whatever, with a couple things on their mind. They'll be like, was my life personally that bad the last few years? No? Okay. And then, is this other guy that honestly is probably senile really the right answer just because I don't really like this other guy as a person? And they'll be like, some of them are going to be like, nah. And they're like, no one's watching them. It's one thing if people are watching us cast our votes. People watching us do stuff, we tend to try to be better people, right? But when no one's watching us, man, people are going to pull that lever, dude. That's my theory anyways. I think it's going to be close, but I think they're going to pull that lever for the same guy.
Well, the thing about it is he campaigned on being an outsider.
Yeah.
And he got those people.
Yep.
But sorry, you're not an outsider.
Yeah, but he's still more of an outsider than Biden.
Oh, sure.
So it's just like they I don't know, it seems like they 2 times in a row they picked the absolute worst person they could have picked against him. There were a lot of people that really disliked Hillary, so that was, and he was, like you said, he was an outsider, and it's a backlash against Obama being picked as a relative nobody in the field, and so it's anytime you're gonna get this backlash, right? But the backlash vote that put Trump in there was just so much stronger than the anti-Trump people that you already know where they stand. I just feel like there's not going to be more of him no matter what he does wrong. Because of who he's running against. Like, I don't see Biden's support going over 43, 44, 45%.
Depends where the economy is right there then.
Yeah, that's true. People need their jobs
Americans
back.
Are more likely to vote the dollar than they are the issues.
Because we have no social safety net in America. I mean, Social Security, but you have to be 65.
If that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's older, and then I mean, disability is good, but how much does that take care of a person?
It doesn't if you have real bills to pay.
Right. Some people have like a lot of fucking bills, and then there's like people like student loans. I think if we have the money to do it, we should be forgiven. We have money to go to war. Why can't we like forgive somebody for studying sociology, right? I don't get it, man. This country is so fucked. But it's still better than most countries. It's got to be, right? Like, people are still flocking here or trying to. They can't sometimes come here. But like, people, as much as they complain about it, how often do you see people leaving, right? Part of that, I think, is like it's really prohibitive to go into other countries because they're more strict than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And no one ever talks about that. We talk about like our immigration. We're so cruel to the rest of the world. Like, do you know how immigration works elsewhere? Like, we're like pretty progressive as far as that goes. Correct, sir. Issue 1. What's on your mind, Charles?
What's on my mind?
Yeah.
Currently, ice cream.
You're gonna get ice? You're making ice cream right now?
I'm eating ice cream.
Put it. I want to watch it go into your mouth.
My mouth.
In your mouth. Mouth. Into Chairman Mouch.
Chairman Youch.
Chairman Mouch. Oh man, see, like I can get fired up, but it's like you have nice ice cream. Like at some level, like am I helping or am I talking to a void? Like yes, I am talking to a void right now. I realize that. Like you're eating ice cream, so you're probably at most 2/3 attention right now because ice cream takes your attention. Ice cream's good. If you're listening, you should probably turn it off and go get some ice cream because the world is fucked, right? But if you're still listening, you're probably in Cambodia or Nigeria or Vietnam, and we thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
We care a lot about Colombian chocolate ice cream.
Oh yeah, Colombian chocolate ice cream. I'm gonna get myself some more dessert pretty soon. Like when I peter out here in a few moments, but like I feel like talking to you, I get like a greater sense of purpose a lot of times, Charles.
Well, here's the problem. Both of us still live at home.
Yeah.
For different reasons. But
yeah.
Mine has to be a little bit more complicated, but
yeah, that makes sense. Helping with your mom, and I'm more on the customer end, I guess you would say, but I understand. Like I would do the same thing, like 100%. And like you're giving up certain supposed freedoms and abilities, but ultimately like it's about what you value, and if people can't understand what you value, then you shouldn't value them very much.
Right.
Like if you value your family, you value your own stability and stuff, it's like that's all that matters. It's frustrating to work through because you're still like anyone still wants to do certain things or have certain things or feel a certain way, but you have to like weigh that against like are these sets of actions I have to take to maybe get in a different direction worth upsetting my current like not happiness but like sub happiness, like some level of balance where you're like I'm not doing great but I'm okay, I'm safe, like I'm eating ice cream, or like I'm talking into the void in four walls that are comfortable with me, like that's all, man. And it's good to not have to be silly every time out, because I wasn't feeling silly today. I wanted to talk about some things that are going on, like I don't know. I got a buddy that just moving back to Michigan to go to grad school at Wayne State to go to study social work, and I'm like, I had a heart-to-heart with him. I was like, are you sure this is the right move, like, because he didn't strike me as that type before, but he had suffered a loss in his own life that was related to something that he might want to do now, and like, and he's just going for it, and like, I think there was part of like in my, not rejection of his wish, like hopes, but like a little bit of envy, because I remember what it was like to just like, fuck it, and just go do something. And it gets harder to do that. So I encourage any younger person, like, get your shit together and try to do something outrageous. Not outrageous, but like, it's like something that is out of a dream, There's going to be harsh realities that are going to go with it, but you have to try it while the benefits still seem higher than their risks. Because it's harder to keep climbing up that tree again. For a different cat, If you've already done it, you've fallen off, or you slid down, you got cuts all over your arm, you're not going to be as excited about going up for the next thing. But everyone's going to need a next thing eventually. Even Denzel Washington needs a next thing, and that's why he helps strangers. Because he's a real Keanu Reeves. How's that ice cream, Charles?
Columbia coffee. Mm.
Go get some. Bye.